Hello, analysts. Feels so good to be able to say that again after an entire year. Welcome back to the official NFL playoff mascot matchup. M, turn it around. And so this is the wild card weekend. Now, last year we got a late start. We only started at the last game of the wild card weekend, but there are 6 games from Saturday through Monday. That is 12 mascots. And so I'm really not going to waste any time. We are going to get into the nitty-gritty. We have a lot to go over, so strap in because together we are going to go through a journey to decide which mascot will eventually raise that coveted trophy, the Lombardi Trophy. Now, of course, like last year, we'll bring back some of our most beloved categories, and a lot of things have remained unchanged, but there are some surprises and a new category that has been added. And just so you all aware, if you see me looking down, just referencing some notes on my iPad, making sure that I am reading out the research correctly as I have seen it. So jumping right in, our first matchup of the NFL wildcard weekend will be with the Los Angeles Rams and the Carolina Panthers. Now, in this playoff, we only have 4 returning mascots, 4 of the 10. And so there will be a lot of new mascots today, but we will start with the away team, which is one of our returning mascots named Rampage. Now, this was the first video I did last year, was between Rampage and Victor. And at that time, I hadn't quite gotten yet my footing and, known what categories I was wanting to do. So we didn't actually do our initial thoughts or right off the bats for Rampage. And so we'll do that today. And so as you might remember, we start with the initial thoughts, and that includes the 3 C's: cuteness, clarity, and creativity for these mascots. So starting with Rampage, starting with the cuteness. Already right off the bat, I struggled. At first, I was going to rank him a little bit lower, but then I rethought about it. And at the end of the day, this mascot really is cute. So I'm going to give him an 8.5 out of 10 on the cuteness scale. Great job, Rampage. Next is the clarity. Now, I can look at this mascot and understand what it is, apart from even knowing what team they play for. Now, for Rampage in this category, I had to give him a 10 out of 10. I mean, once you see the actual picture of a ram, Rampage looks just like him, right? So in that category, I have to give him a perfect score. And this will be where our first surprise, first new addition comes in. Now, a lot of people would argue that more so than the mascots being for adults, that they are truly for children, right? And who better to judge clarity of can I look at something and know what it is than a child? If I show a picture of a mascot to a child, will they understand what this mascot is and who it's supposed to represent? And so with that, I got some responses from who will be one of our guest analysts throughout this series, my soon-to-be 6-year-old niece, Iris. Now, I tried to also poll my younger 4-year-old niece, but she's generally very busy. I mean, she's got Elsas and Rapunzels to play with. Like, she doesn't have time to sit down and tell me what this mascot looks like, right? And so she did give us the honor of one response on a mascot. And so when that comes later down the line, I'll let you all know. But with the clarity category, I also wanted to include clarity, Iris's version. Now, according to Iris, Rampage, this one's very concerning. Rampage has to get a 0 out of 10 for her. And that is because when she looked at this picture, she said that Rampage looks like an Indian covered in chocolate. Now, I thought that this year we would likely get away from the more problematic Native American themes that we've had, with the Chiefs out of the playoffs and the Commanders not in the playoffs as well. But little did I know that my niece would be the one to bring it back. Now, you might be wondering, what did she mean by that? An Indian covered in chocolate? I don't know because I was too afraid to ask. And then when I told her that, no, it's actually a ram, she doubled down saying, but it really looks like an Indian. I don't know, guys. I'm very concerned. But, we can't really knock Rampage too much for this because as a 5-year-old, I don't think you really even know what a ram is. She had never seen this animal. And apparently, even as an adult, I had no clue. I was telling her it's kind of like a goat. Little to find out, a ram is a sheep. But once she saw the picture, she was able to understand, oh yes, this looks just like that mascot. And so, again, had to be a 0 out of 10, at least for Iris in the clarity category. Moving on to our creativity. And I wanted to say for this category, last year I talked a lot about how for certain mascots, their name and how it incorporates well into the city and into the state that they're from and kind of the culture. But just like us watching, none of us chose to be here, right? Our parents made that decision for us. And same with these mascots. They didn't choose, what they were going to be. The owners of these teams decided this is going to be our team and our logo and our mascot, and the mascots were the one to just step into that. So, upon reflection, I didn't think it was fair to dock these mascots points for the creativity category based on that. However, I do think that you can, earn some points, of course. It could be a bonus if you do work in well as a city. But if not, I don't want to dock them on that. So in terms of creativity, I have to give Rampage a 9.5 out of 10. When we think of Rampage, this is very aggressive. And I really like that the fans were included in this creativity. So they polled about 1,000 fans, and the name was decided by them. And so I love the rhyming as well. Rampage the Ram. It just goes really well together. And so for that, I'd have to give them a 9.5 out of 10. So Rampage is starting very strong in our initial thoughts are right off the bats category. I mean, almost a perfect score. And from there, if you remember, we would always start with history because a history of the mascot and history in general really defines and depicts the present. So just as a reminder for history that before Rampage came Ramster, this really scary ram-style hamster that was quickly disbanded because, hello, horrific, right? And then I told you about how the name came about, the fans making it, and that also there was a strong commitment to the bit on Rampage's part about being unveiled at the St. Louis Zoo back when, before being in Los Angeles. And so I just love that kind of commitment. And so that's the history that we have of Rampage. Next, we go into the accolades, kind of their awards, some of their, athletic feats and non athletic feats as well, because as we know, football is not just about athleticism, right? And so going into Rampage's accolades, as you might remember, Rampage is a 7-time NFL Pro Bowl mascot, because yes, the mascots can be selected to the Pro Bowl as well. 7-time NFL Pro Bowl mascot, which is impressive since he only came on the scene in 2010. And as we might remember, Rampage was in the Super Bowl and won it 3 years ago. So he's primed and still ready to kind of get back there and hoist that trophy once again. And now a very important accolade that I actually missed last time that we did this last year, but in my research this time, decided that it was very pertinent to bring up is that Rampage is the first ever sports mascot to be given a Hollywood star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Him and a mascot named Monty. I truly did not care enough to go into research of who this mascot was. There's some kind of connection to a Spanish-speaking country. I think it has a Spanish name, and a lot of people in the comments were Spanish, so maybe it's like the either Mexican or whatever country it's supposed to represent kind of version of Rampage, potentially, but they share the star together. Now, this is pretty insane, right? Like, when we think about it, this mascot has a star. And it's also even more insane when we think about the actual humans that received a Hollywood star as well on the Walk of Fame just last year. Listen to this list. We have Busta Rhymes, Bill Nye, David Beckham, Jane Fonda, and many, many others, Green Day, etc., that also received stars, just like Rampage, in 2025. Absolutely wild. Then from there, we go into our next category, which is uniqueness. Is there something special that just this mascot does, or just this mascot and a few others do that makes them really stand out? And so in the uniqueness, if you remember last year, I talked about the game day fits that Rampage would have, how a lot of times we see the NFL players, they'll have their fits and they'll take pictures of them walking into the stadium, and Rampage would do the same. There are other mascots that do this as well too, but he really leveled up this year. And so this year, if we look at his Instagram, we'll see he still has the game day fits, but apparently they are now sponsored by Sony. Didn't even know you could get game day fits sponsored, and didn't even know mascots could be sponsored, period. Right? And so we're not seeing any other mascots doing that. Other mascots have the fit, but they are not sponsored by Sony. So this definitely puts Rampage apart from the others. Next, we will see that Rampage is one of 3 mascots, so only 3 total, that is a published author. That's right. That he has a children's book called Ride with Rampage. But the thing that I don't like about this is he didn't actually write or illustrate it, though. And that seems to be the case with some of the other mascots too. They didn't actually write or illustrate it. It's about them, and the authors credited them as authors. But can I really say you're a published author if you didn't actually write it or illustrate it? I mean, does that make any sense? No. But, it is what it is. I don't make the rules, and so he is a published author in that regard. And the last thing in terms of the uniqueness is just how close he is to the players. Now, I personally think this should be standard amongst all the mascots, but as we know from, QBs like Joe Burrow, for instance, not all of the players really appreciate their mascots that much. They're not really seen as an important and vital member of the team that they are, but Rampage is so close with his teammates, often having a lot of these very cute videos where he has these kind of secret handshakes or he does these special kind of moves with players after a game or just when he sees them. And so I love this. It is a lot of players on the team that really respect and really love Rampage, which is what we want to see all the time for these NFL mascots. Now, our next category, prior to addition of the new one, which will come right after this one used to be our most important, which is their social media presence, right? Like we said, football, the NFL is not all about athleticism. There are far more important metrics, and social media presence being one of them. And so, looking at Rampage and his social media presence, he is mostly active on Instagram and Twitter. And what we see from Instagram is that he is the fourth most followed mascot of all franchises. So that includes the NBA, the NFL, the MLB, all these different franchises. The fourth most followed on Instagram, having nearly 400,000 followers. Now, these are really impressive numbers. And one of the things that I really love about his Instagram page that we see other mascots doing as well that we'll talk about later down the line is that it's not just all about the game and about football. He uses his Instagram, his social media for good, and a big part of that is highlighting different community efforts, community initiatives that are out there. And so this will be our new category today to see how do these players really get involved in their community? What kinds of initiatives are they doing for their community out there? And so Rampage is a very, very strong mascot when it comes to this category. So, for instance, they have a Rams Reader Fall Program challenge, and he helped them raise their minutes from 313,000 to over 2 million minutes of reading across students. So, this is a community initiative that promotes literacy, teamwork, and kindness by having Rams personnel, so like cheerleaders or their mascot, and sometimes authors and astronauts visit schools to read books to elementary students, often giving them a free copy of the book. So a lot of these students got the Ride with Rampage copy to which he authored and incorporated themes related to the team and positive values. And so that is huge. But not just that, Rampage participates in food drives. He did a Home for the Holidays event for children who don't have a place to go for Christmas, and even donating dog food to the fur pals in need at the Pet Adoption Center. So this is very, very impressive for Rampage. But what we see that I think really sets him apart, not even I think, that does set him apart in this category, is the fact that most recently in 2025 at the NFL Mascots meeting in Atlanta, Rampage was awarded the Anchor in the Community Award. Now, this is a prestigious award that recognizes the NFL mascot who best exemplifies community service and impact. So this is similar to the Walter Payton Man of the Year Award for the human players on the team, which is the highest award that you could really get in the NFL in terms of people who do the same, right? Who exemplify kind of the support for their community and the impact that they could have. So Rampage won this equivalent. I mean, like I said, this is the highest honor an NFL mascot could receive. And Rampage himself even said, "The responsibility to serve this community has been one of my greatest honors. Every school event, community service effort, and platform to initiate positive change is an opportunity for me to better understand the needs of our neighbors and make our community a better place for everyone." Love those words, Rampage, and I love his heart towards service to others. And so that is definitely a strong start. Like I said, this is a mascot that we are, not unknown to, but a couple of new additions to throw in there and ways to refresh our memory. So next we'll move on to the Carolina Panthers mascot before talking a little more, comparing both of them and deciding who will be our winner for today. And so the Carolina Panthers, their mascot is titled Sir Purr. That's right, Sir Purr. On the cuteness scale, this one I went back and forth on as well. I might change my mind in future and give him a little bit higher, but as it stands, I'm going to give Sir Purr around a 6.5 out of 10. And this is because there's just just something about Sir Purr that maybe it's the teeth, I don't know, but just something that doesn't quite raise that cuteness higher for me. So I'm at a 6.5 out of 10, but again, I can be swayed. Now, next, we'll be doing the clarity. So on the clarity scale, I gave him about a 7 out of 10. I mean, I think it's pretty clear it's a cat of some kind, but am I getting Panther from this? Probably not, and I think that's because he's leaning a little bit more into trying to lean into the cuteness side for the kids, right? So I think that waters down the aggressivity that we need to understand this is a panther. And now pulling in, again, our guest analyst to look at the clarity, this is Iris's version. She similarly, I think, would give Sir Purr a 7 out of 10 because, according to her, when I asked, "What is this?" she said a black cat. Which is accurate. I mean, that is true, right? A panther is a black cat. But again, it is just not reading fully panther. And not even just for myself or even for Iris, even for some other members of the team. There is an incredible, I love this video. There is a viral video of one of the players from the Panthers that mistaked Sir Purr for a different animal. We'll watch that together. And so upon first look, he even thought Sir Purr was a bear. Now, I think that's a little bit crazy, but again, he was looking from kind of far away. And I love the humor in Sir Purr and that going to his Instagram page, you can actually see in his Instagram bio, he says, "I'm that bear." So using a little bit of humor there, which I do really enjoy. And then the last would be the creativity. I also went pretty back and forth on this as well, but I decided to give Sir Purr a 7 out of 10. One, I like, as we know, that it's a characteristic of what a cat does, which I imagine maybe a panther would also do, which is purr, right? So putting that in there. But the sir gives it a level of regality to it. I don't even know if that's a word, but it makes it seem very regal, right? Sir. Sir purr. I like the alliteration that's evolved in there, and it can kind of a little bit tie into North Carolina with, the Biltmore estate being in Asheville and some of the fanciness and regality royalty associated with that. So in a sense, it could kind of tie in a little bit, but I do enjoy the name. I just enjoy it. So I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 in that regard. Now, going into Sir Purr's history. So he came on the scene in 1995, which was the same year actually that the franchise came into existence. So since the Carolina Panthers have been around, so has Sir Purr, which I love that, from the beginning that this mascot has been there with the team. And so really understands the organization and what the fans need. But while nobody actually did precede him, we all came from somewhere, right? I just talked about before how we didn't have a choice to be here. It was our parents that brought us here. And so a few years ago, Sir Purr actually brought in some of his family members to the game, and so we got a chance to see a little bit about where Sir Purr comes from, which we don't always get with these mascots. We don't always often get to see the people who love and support them and are cheering them on behind the scenes. Often it's just about their play during the game. So I love this kind of family moment. And so going from left to right, now we don't know 100% how they're all related, but starting on the left, we have Purr Trisha Purr. Then right next to her, we have Grandma Purr. Then we have Minnie Meow. And then we have Sir Purr himself in the Santa costume, Cousin Cletus, and then Uncle Bob. This was taken on Christmas Eve in about 2012. And so we didn't have, they call him Big Daddy Purr there, which is his father. But I love that we just get to see a little bit of Sir Purr's family. Now, going into uniqueness, Sir Purr is one of a few of our flying furry friends. As we know, we do have some, and we will be talking about one very soon that does acrobatic stunts, flinging around the stadium, like they're Pink at a concert, right? And so he does that as well. But I think a fun fact that makes him unique in this aspect is that the person who helps set up the stunts for Sir Purr is a former mascot himself. That's right. One of the former NC State mascots, who they call Mr. Wolf, now helps his hometown NFL mascot in his own stunts. So I just love that. I love that mascot to mascot assistance. And so, although the stunts aren't unique, that, as far as I can see, is. Now, going through accolades, there are a few here for Sir Purr that we'll read through. And so, as we might know if you watched last season, that there is an NFL Mascot of the Year award, which is voted on by the other mascots as well. And so in 2017, Sir Purr won this coveted honor. And their kicker at the time actually shared a message after hearing about the honor. So their kicker said, "Congratulations to Sir Purr. There's no other mascot that I would rather have squeaking their paws in my ears while I warm up on the sideline. There's also the occasional, but always accidental, knocking the ball off my tee on the sidelines. You're the best, Sir Purr." So again, we just talked about this, how I just love how players really acknowledge and are appreciative of their mascot. So for their own kicker to give him a congratulations message is huge. So congrats, Sir Purr, on that honor. He also took home the prize for mascot video of the year in 2018. He won skit of the year in 2016. He has also attended Pro Bowls, just like Rampage. Now, it wasn't specified how many. I couldn't find the exact number, but just that it has been multiple, with his last one being in 2024. And then lastly, he was selected as the 2025 NFL Play 60 Mascot Ambassador. For folks who don't know what this NFL Play 60 program is, it's a program that focuses on getting more youth to be physically active. And so the mascots do go, but he was selected as the ambassador for this, which is a great honor. Then going into our social media presence, Sir Purr has a strong social media presence, mostly on Instagram and TikTok, and having around 200 or 300, 385,000 TikTok followers and amassing over 3.6 million likes on his videos. So that is huge. And in all of his posts, he is very much on trend, uses the perfect sounds. He's very much dialed in, tuned in to the culture, to what's going on in the moment. Gives me very much Gen Z vibes, so this doesn't surprise me, but always a cute and fun post that is on brand for Sir Purr. And then going into our new category, which is community engagement, he has his own literacy program known as the Sir Purr's Possum Readers Program, which is designed to help improve reading proficiency amongst third graders. So he does that regularly. He also makes monthly visits to one of the children's hospitals in Charlotte. He also visits schools in the Carolinas each spring to help third through fifth graders prepare for standardized testing in what's known as SAC the Tests. And as well, we can see in his Instagram bio that he has a link that will take you to their Keep Pounding Fund. For those who don't know, that is the slogan, the motto for the Carolina Panthers. They say keep pounding. And so their Keep Pounding Fund, which is an effort to pound out cancer, to eliminate cancer and to help with the research that can do that. And so huge community engagement for Sir Purr, which we love to see because at the end of the day, that's what the game's all about. And then we do have a miscellaneous category as well that we'll throw in here and there if there's things that don't quite fit into the other categories that maybe a mascot has. And so one of it is we looked at his family previously, and one of those family members was Minnie Meow. So Minnie Meow does join Sir Purr during games occasionally. So they'll come out and they'll play games together. So I love that he brings his family out to the games as well to have fun, and that his family is also beloved amongst the community. And another miscellaneous fact that actually does concern me a little bit for the longevity of this mascot as well is that he consumes 6.5 gallons of milk daily. 6.5 gallons. And it does show a little bit, but the extra weight doesn't really seem to slow him down, though. He's still very active, very cheery, very peppy. However, as an athlete, this concerns me because as an athlete, there are sacrifices we have to make. And of course, having your body in prime, tip top shape, that way you can face off against your competition, is incredibly important, right? And so, Sir Purr, this is a concern. Is he ready for the high hitting nature of Rampage, who definitely does not consume 6.5 gallons of milk? You can tell. And so this is a concerning thing. But now, as we did last year, I wanted to pull in other experts, other analysts to see their thoughts. But ultimately, I'm going to be the final deciding factor, right? And so we will bring back USA Today from last time. And so looking at Rampage, if we might remember, Rampage was ranked at an 11 out of 28 mascots. I say 28 because although there are more teams, unfortunately, a couple of these teams do not have mascots, and even more unfortunately, one of those teams made the playoff this year. So we're gonna talk about them. Don't worry, that will actually be the very next video. So stay tuned. But Rampage is at an 11 out of 28, so a little bit on the higher side, a little bit more than halfway. We see he's not kind of cream of the crop here. So Rampage coming in at 11, but what was even more concerning to see is Sir Purr coming in at 20. out of 28. I mean, the person that commented did mention that they look like a Beanie Baby, which, while incredibly accurate, does that matter in the long run? It's really more about how he plays, right? We can't just judge somebody off of how they look, but rather judge them of the content of their mascotness. And so with this one here, I can't get on board with how low Sir Purr is. And actually, after doing my research, I have to say that I'm obsessed with Sir Purr. You could even say I'm obsessulated. I love this mascot. And now I do also have a sweet spot for Rampage, but there's just something about Sir Purr that really is so lovable to me. So this did hurt me on a personal level. And thinking about all that we've talked about and all that we've seen so far, while I, like a lot of other fans, am personally here for Sir Purr, while I do love him with my entire heart, I am going to have to pick for our mascot matchup, our first matchup of the 2025-2026 season, to select Rampage and the Los Angeles Rams to take this one. I think Rampage, really with his accolades, is going to just overwhelm Sir Purr. Sir Purr hasn't been under the bright lights in a very, very long time. It's been almost 10 years since he won Mascot of the Year. Couldn't even tell you the last time Sir Purr went to a Super Bowl, and Rampage just got back from one. Well, hasn't been in the playoff for a long time. And so I just think that experience is going to play against Sir Purr, unfortunately. So for this one, I'm going to have to pick Rampage and the Los Angeles Rams to be our winner. But of course, we'll love to hear what you all have to say and which of these mascots you are taking to go to the next round of the playoffs. All right, well, thank you for joining me for our first video, and stay tuned for many, many more for this wild card weekend.